We are actually in Lightning Room C, where we have a slate of wonderful AUC faculty giving us some speeches. Alrighty, that better?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew Platt. I'm an associate professor of political science at Morehouse College. Title of my talk today is A Paradox of Ambition. Next slide, please. There are two basic ideas that are the foundation of today's talk. The first is that for most Black members of the House of Representatives, in order for you to achieve your political ambitions by perhaps becoming a senator one day, running for governor, running to be the mayor of your big city, you will need to earn more white votes than are required to maintain your current House seat. The second premise, and this is more of a normative assertion, is that the reason that it matters to have Black people in Congress is because they engage in what I call Black agenda setting. That is, they take issues that matter and would improve the lives of Black people, and they put them forward so that Congress can pay attention to those issues. The question I have today is, can those two ideas coexist? That as you are trying to get more white votes to achieve your ambition, will that impede your ability to engage in quality Black representation? So when I look at this, I first look at data on approval ratings from the Cooperative Congressional Election Study from 2006 to 2016. And I pair that and also separately look at data on bill sponsorship from every Black member of Congress from 1947 to 2016. That's my own data. And then I'm measuring ideology using the standard measurement in political science, which is nominate data. That's a scaled score based on roll call votes from 1789 to the present. Next slide, please. And so what we find when we look at this is the picture here is showing our approval results. So when you look at the probability that a constituent approves of their member of Congress, and the dashed lines show that approval for people who are the same party, so Democrats approving more of Democrats, Republicans approving more of Republicans, and the solid lines showing those who are not of the same party. So Democrats don't like Republicans, Republicans don't like being represented by Democrats. Oh, can we go back? And the key idea is that when you look at the blue lines, you see that our x-axis is the number of Black bills introduced, so that Black members of Congress who introduce more Black issue bills are rewarded by their Black constituents, but they are punished by their white constituents. So it's a small kind of negative line here saying, so members internalize the idea that if you want to do more Black politics, it will be more difficult for you to get the electoral approval of the white audience that you want to do to move forward. Next slide, please. And so then when we look at the actual legislative behavior of our Black members, we see that they internalize that approval message in how they actually behave when they're in Congress. On the left-hand side, we're looking at the mean ideology for Black members who are ambitious versus those who are not ambitious in blue. The way ideology is measured, more negative numbers means that you are more liberal. So given that in general, Black people need Congress to do more liberal things, we see that ambitious members are less liberal than non-ambitious members of Congress. And on the right-hand side, now we're looking at mean bill sponsorship by ambition. And you see that, again, our red ambitious bar is lower than our blue non-ambitious bar. So the basic idea is that if you are a Black member of Congress who is ambitious, you are less likely to engage in Black politics. This is what I call the paradox of ambition, that Black politics is harmed by the ambition of Black politicians. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. And we will switch over. Dr. James Lillard from Morehouse School of Medicine. You have the floor, and Joy, if you'll restart the timer.
We're ready.
Dr. Lillard?
Yes, will I be sharing my slides?
Well, we didn't receive them, so you can go from, we had a compiled group of slides. Do you have them queued up now?
I do.
Okay, let me make sure. Go ahead and try to.
Okay, yep. Yeah, and thank you. Thank you. It's great to be able to speak with everyone. I wanted to go over what we've been doing at Morehouse School of Medicine regarding precision medicine. Obviously, there are a number of health disparities in the United States. Many of them are localized in the southeastern region, southeastern corridor, that happens to correlate with some of the highest mortality rates, in particular in cancer, that can be 10 to 40 times greater for African Americans compared to our Caucasian counterparts. And with states like South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi having the highest populations, that's where a lot of these disparities exist. And what's fueling perhaps a future health disparity in precision medicine will be highlighted because we need a number of clinical data sets that contain clinical data, genomic data, to make a better sense of biomarkers and even drug targets that will be available for cancer drugs of the future. But the problem is a lot of those data sets have been collected in regions outside of the South, like the Cancer Genome Atlas, dances around the South, but it's in comprehensive cancer centers. AACR, American Association for Cancer Research, GENI does the same thing. Orion, a new and oncology research information exchange network, again, does the same, but very few exist in the South, but Morehouse School of Medicine has employed a total cancer care protocol to get at this. And just to give you an idea, before we've been involved, the number of cases, they've acquired a number of cases, 12,000, 60,000, 7,000 and counting for the TCGA, GENI, and Orion, and less than, as little as 5% in certain categories in terms of African American cases. But in just a year, even during COVID, we're at 1,400 clinical genomic data sets, and that doubles, that surpasses TCGA. We're half of what's been in all of AACR GENI, and we're doubled or tripling what is in Orion thus far. So some of the data elements that go into these sets, we're aggregating radiography data, electronic medical record data, real world data, like how the patient feels, how they responded, do they have any adverse events, physician notes. The biospecimens are taken, and we're doing next generation sequence. We're sequencing DNA and RNA, aggregating that data, and creating data warehouses where patients, physicians, their caregivers, and even researchers in industry can view to see who might benefit from a special clinical trial. Now, this creates a lot of data, and essentially we're managing both data and relationships with industry and other channels to disseminate these findings, whether it's researchers, education, precision medicine company, AI companies. AI companies are building clinical decision support tools using data sets like this, and obviously community advocates and et cetera. And once you compile all of this, you get data like this. This is a study using data we've collected from chronic lymphocytic leukemia patients that have relapsed from therapy. So we've identified both a biomarker and a drug target that my lab study, CXCR5, that is significantly associated with poor survival in these types of patients. And you could only get at this through some of the studies we were involved in.
You have less than 1 minute left.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. All right, up next, we have Dr. Jeticia Sistrunk.
Yes.
And let me put it full screen. Joy, are we ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I am Dr. Jeticia Sistrunk. I'm an assistant professor of biology at Spelman College, and I'm going to talk about some independent research projects. So some student research looking at the human microbiome. So I, along with another assistant professor at Spelman named Dr. Goitia, we had about 8 independent research students that we were teaching. So that's from the fall of 2020 through this semester of 2021. And they had a variety of different projects that they were able to choose from. So can you go to the next slide, please? So yes, so we gave them an option to choose projects that were most interesting to them. And they had a variety of projects that they chose. So they were looking at the vaginal microbiome and the link to nutrition. Some of them looked at the vaginal microbiome compared to what happens when you have a C-section delivery and how that might impact newborns and infants. We had someone looking at multiple sclerosis. We had another person who was looking at mental health in the connection to the gut microbiome. So they were able to choose projects that were really of interest to them, relevant to them in their lives, in their communities, and then use some bioinformatics tools and some microbial data, this is biological data, to understand a little bit more about the connection between the bacteria in different parts of the human body and different diseases, conditions, or different types of exposures and health outcomes. Next slide, please.
This one or the next?
Yes, perfect. No, this is perfect. So the projects used publicly available data. So there were a couple of publicly available pieces of software that the students trained on. One in particular is an educational bioinformatics software called DNA Subway. And they were able to use that to practice analyzing microbial data and understand what types of statistical tools they might want to use, how to put a bioinformatics pipeline together, which is just a series of analysis steps to understand, again, what the different bacteria in different parts of the body and how they might be related to different types of diseases. This one in particular shown here is a website called Cheetah, and it had a bunch of different publicly available data sets where researchers who did studies, collected data for their particular project, made that data available for other people to continue doing additional analysis. As many of you probably understand, when you have data sets like this with sequencing technology, there's only so much time and effort you can put into analyzing it. There's still plenty of work that others could do as long as you leave it publicly available, and then others can add to that research. Next slide, please.
Did it load?
I don't see it. Oh, there we go. I see it.
Okay,
So-
so a little bit of a lag. Sorry about
It's
that.
okay. Oh, you're okay. So as I mentioned, students were able to learn how to analyze this data. This was all new for them. They learned a lot about statistical analyses. They learned about how to think about data analysis and to make connections between different microbiomes and the different health and disease outcomes that they put together. And they were also able to collect the results using the Cheetah platform, and they presented their results during the Spelman Research Day that happened actually last week. Next slide, please. And this is the last slide. So yes, so again, anytime you have publicly available data, it allows people to do their own analyses. So the students were able to think of research questions that were slightly different than maybe the original authors were thinking of, because the students have their own experiences and perspectives and own research interests. And so they were able to do some analyses and come up with some new figures, slightly different, using different variables that were most interesting to them. So this is just another way that students who are still learning computational tools can add to the existing research and knowledge that's available to the biological community. So that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there plans to run this again this year or this summer?
Yes, absolutely. This summer and then next year as well.
Alrighty. Next we have let me see here. We have Dr. Grace Sohn. And I will be pulling that up in just a second.
I have that on my desktop if you want me to share.
Oh no, I definitely have it. I just
Oh, okay.
I definitely have it here. All right, let me get the share going. And Joy, are we ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's go.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. My name is Grace Sun, and I'm the Director of Institutional Research at Morehouse School of Medicine. My topic today is the evolution of data analytics. Next slide, please. So first of all, I would love to reintroduce some concepts to you. I believe you all have heard or used these concepts pretty often. Business intelligence, data analytics, data science, big data analysis on cloud. But the question is, are they the same thing? You can use thumb up for yes and thumb down for no for my questions. And the next question is, can you tell the differences? Have you used them interchangeably? I guess you have like some thumbs up, some thumbs down. Next, please. Although they are very often used interchangeably, but they are different. Business intelligence addresses ongoing operation, helping businesses and departments meet organizational goals. It tells what happened by using descriptive analysis or visualizations. Data analytics, on the other hand, answers why it happened based on the collected data. It helps companies that want to transform the way they do business. And when it comes to data science actually use the data we collected from the past to make future predictions. It creates statistical and mathematical models to help conduct the prediction. The last one is big data analysis on cloud. So Gartner defined big data analysis as high volume, high velocity, and or high variety information assets that demand cost-effective, innovative forms of information processing that enable enhanced insight, decision-making, and process automation. The key information here for me is enhanced. Big data analysis enhanced data analytics and data science to improve business insight and decision using structural and non-structural data. Next, please. So when we put all these concepts in our day-to-day business operation, It can be defined by 6 maturity levels. The first level is the unorganized level. On this level, organizations, business departments have no standard data reports. Data are stored as Excel spreadsheet, PDF, PowerPoint, or other format of files locally. And the single point of failures may easily happen because of the manual operation. The second level is the level of operational reports. Operational systems are launched in this level, and operational data reports in Excel format are created. Charts, tables are developed to summarize what's happening. So this is also still a very highly manual process. During the third level, the management dashboard level, executive leaders request regular, standard, more interactive and drillable reports to help them understand what happened. The first 3 levels are business intelligence level, and the descriptive analysis are done. Start from the 4th level, inferential statistical analysis start to join in. So some statistical conclusions, correlations can be drawn, and the answers to why can be answered at this level. And level 5
you have
and
20
6,
seconds left.
okay. Level 5 and 6 are data science and big data analysis level. So models are built to predict the future, and the executive decisions are made based on prediction. And this level, not only why, but how the answers can be developed. So I can skip the last slide, but I want you all to think about, based on your judgment, at what level is your institution or department located? I would love to know, please put in chat. And I also like to know what other institutions from AUCC or other institutions are doing in terms of their data analytics and data science. And we are open for coordination, the cooperation opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we'll have Dr. Patrick Washington. Press the correct buttons. Let's see here.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Had a little bit of a lag. Can we see those?
I think it's starting to come up now. Is it up? It is. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Widen it back out. I think that'd be more helpful without my name. Yeah. That'd be
okay.
Okay, so my name is Patrick Bernard Washington. I'm an associate professor of finance at Morehouse College. And today we'll be talking about investing in African Americans using data. And so if we look at the average wealth over the past few years, you'll see that it's increased, but it's not grown equally for all groups. So we should ask ourselves, why has the racial wealth gap not closed? And if we look at data sources such as consumer finances, it shows us that long-standing and substantial wealth disparities between families in different racial and ethnic groups has experienced little change over time. And then we recently had the Great Recession from 2007 to 2009 that triggered a sharp and prolonged decline in the wealth of American families. And an already large wealth gap between white households and Black and Hispanic households widened further in the immediate aftermath. And so a typical white family has 8 times the wealth of the typical Black family. And if we look at the beginning of Reconstruction and standing across the 20th century to the present, the convergence of several factors have effectively undermined the prospect of Black workers and families to enjoy opportunities to accumulate resources. White Americans have had the opportunity to accumulate wealth and it has benefited their families for generations, while the opposite has happened for Black families who have systematically been excluded from building intergenerational wealth. And so, as we look here at this picture, what we see is the Black African American population spread across the United States. And you can see that most African Americans live in Texas, California, Georgia, the least amount in Wyoming in the country. And so where do we target our policies at? Where are most of the Black population located? That's one important thing we need to know when considering how to enact policy. And so, what has not always helped are the policies and the practice over the last 150 years. You can move to the next slide, including the early 40 acres and the meal plan of the Homestead Act, Social Security, the GI Bill, and even contemporary predatory student loan lending. And so, if you know the Southern Homestead Act, it was initiated to help farmers slaves gain their own land, and it opened up about 46 million acres in Alabama, Arkansas, and Florida, and Mississippi. And so those are some of the states that still have lower populations. And so there are many flaws with that act, just because African Americans, they still were being prevented from getting information about the program. And then, by 1876, really, only 3 million acres of land are actually being granted, the majority going to white people. And so this chart here shows us a distribution from 2016 to 2019 of the income levels of African Americans. And what you should see is that, the poverty levels are kind of sticky at the bottom. So the poverty level is, for 2019 was 25,750.
You have 1 minute left.
And so, it's kind of been stuck there, and you can see that the rates declining as far as the number of Black people that have wealth. But we move to the next slide. Okay, so once we consider, how can we remedy some of these things? Well, Americans who own stocks are pulling away from those who don't, and Wall Street is roared to record numbers, but Black households are much more likely to not invest. Only 33% of Black households own stocks in 2019. So this graph shows the stock market, this green line here, reaching all-time
We're at time.
Trading volume decreasing.
We're at your time right now.
Oh, let me see the next slide real quick. And so this just shows this disparity in the home ownership gap. There's a 30% gap between white and Black that is consistent throughout time. If you get the last slide. This also just shows the disparity within transactions within financial assets versus Americans and non-African Americans whites. So transaction accounts like bank accounts, whites have much more, bank accounts. They own 20% in stocks versus Black's only on 3.6. So in retirement accounts, there are 43% more retirement accounts versus African Americans only having 17%.
So we'll have to stop there because we have one more speaker and we're right at the 2 o'clock hour.
Okay.
But thank you. I have everyone's contact information. So anyone who wants to reach back out to get more information, you absolutely can do that. So now we have Dr. Ethell Vereen coming up and he has a video. So I'm going to play that video. And right, so a little virtual reality, and here we go. Play it. Let's see. Here we go.
We cannot hear the audio.
No audio? No one? Ethel, are you ready to ad-lib it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna start it from here and get it back queued up.
Picture frame here. So real quick, this talk is entitled Data Visualization and Visual Exploration in Virtual Reality. I'm the lead presenter on this talk and my collaborator is Dr. Messina Morris. So first we wanted to just chat, well, what actually is, before we start talking about virtual reality, I wanted to introduce augmented reality. So augmented reality actually lets the user experience the real world, having this digital augmented or enhanced in some way, whereas virtual reality, on the other hand, removes the user from that real world experience, replacing it with a completely simulated one. There's a message in the chat. Are you sharing your audio, Bettina, or no?
Yeah, I hadn't done that before, so I think I would have to stop it. So that's why I just turned, it muted it on I could hear it, but you guys couldn't.
Oh.
So you go.
All right. So as seen here, sorry. So as seen here, these users are wearing these head-mounted devices or these HMDs. And what's really unique about them is that they allow viewers to actually see and be in a completely immersive environment. And so what we've also, virtual reality, you normally think about entertainment or gaming or science fiction. And in this case, this virtual environment, we've actually moved from science fiction to actually virtual reality. Whereas with sci-fi, originally it was fiction because the actual technology was not available to actually do this. But with virtual reality, we can literally step inside of our data and be completely immersed within the data. So this is something that's happening right now. And it's something that we're actually doing even in the AUC at Morehouse College. So through our connections here, when you normally think about data, you think about either scatter plots or bar charts or some sort of graphs or histograms, whereas VR actually allows us to literally be immersed within our data and to actually look at the data from new perspectives, both in 3D. So rather than this two-dimensional plane, we can actually literally be inside of the data and see things from a different perspective. It allows us to collaborate with other persons, only limited by the number of headsets. So you have multiple users who are in this virtual environment. And then with this collaboration, you're only limited by the number of headsets that you may have. And you're able to then not have to have other technology, other uses. And then also in being immersed in the data, you can actually then have different perspectives as well.
I'm letting the video play, so
Okay, no worries.
Get to the next slide. We're gonna, here we go.
Thank you all for bearing us with this little technology. So, so at Morehouse, we're actually at the frontier of how VR has actually been now being used in the educational space here. And so at Morehouse College, we actually have 3 classes that are currently being conducted in VR using the Victory XR platform based on Engage. We have support from Qualcomm as well as the Southern Company, which actually provided these Oculus Quest 2 headsets to all of our scholars, our students. And for our scholars, our students, when they actually step into the virtual world, they actually literally are immersed into our digital twin campus. And what we're seeing here is an example of some of those classes that are actually being conducted right now in VR. So this is a history class conducted by Dr. Ethell Hamilton. Here we see students being engaged with data actually in the virtual space on our quad. So you're not limited to a classroom environment because you're in virtual reality. There also this gaming aspect that we've also included into our classes. Here you're seeing examples taken from the men's health class where I'm actually the instructor, where our students can actually, again, be totally immersed in this environment. It actually allows us to learn and engage with each other in this completely new way. We also go on virtual field trips in a number of our classes. So we also have an analytical chemistry class. This is an example taken from the men's health class, but also in the chemistry class, students are actually going through the actual digestive system. So this is something that's really neat about the VR experience, where again, you're not limited to actually doing this in a classroom. So we do invite you to join us on this virtual experience. So if you're interested in becoming a collaborator on this project or to even learn more, please contact us. You can contact our project manager, Mr. Deshante Carmen, or Dr. Messina Morris, another collaborator on this project, or myself, Ethell Vereen. You can use this QR code and actually scan and actually give us more information. I'm also going to post a link in the chat window as well for you to join us on this effort. And Steve Grubbs, he's actually the CEO of Victory XR, said like this partnership gives the rest of the academic world a glimpse into the future of education, and that these classes are surprisingly close to those imagined in the book Ready Player One. So again, we have this art imitating life, imitating technology, pushing this frontier as we again look to explore more in education. So I'd like to acknowledge and thank our collaborators again on this project, the Southern Company and Qualcomm for providing headsets, Victory XR for making these virtual environments. And then also, again, I invite all of you to please do join us by either, again, scanning the QR code or clicking that link that we posted in the chat. And also want to acknowledge Dr. Tanya Clark, who's also a collaborator in this project. She'll be onboarding a new class, a first-year experience course in VR this coming semester in Blacks in Wonderland. So again, this is not just limited to STEM courses at all. So we are very much interested in having more of you join us in VR. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vereen. And I want to thank all of our speakers today, Dr. James Lillard, Dr. Matthew Platt, Dr. Jeticia Sistrunk, Dr. Grace Sun, and Dr. Ethell Vereen, and Dr. Patrick Washington to continue the conversation. We actually have the chat in the Hoover platform along with this session. So if there's a question you have for anyone, you can go put it in the Hoover chat on your phone or on the web app. Their contact information is all listed. We went over time a little bit. We had a little technology glitches. Blame that on me. I need to take the virtual reality class, but I thank you all for being here. And the next lightning talks will start at 2:15. So you have a few minutes to grab some water and get into the next session. Thank you all for being here.